Now let's talk about Decidueye. This matchup is pretty much why Rotom is great. For Fly's characters like this, that like to hop all over the screen, don't really have too much sense of the ground game, that's what you want this for. The instant you see Decidueye start doing any of this stuff, flying all over the screen, you know, trying to do shadow punches, trying to do acrobatics, you know, any of that stuff, throwing out this kind of crap, all this. Rotom, 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 Rotom. In fact, you can just round start, pop Rotom. Because then you keep Decidueye on the ground. It's going to be a lot harder for it to hit you. Dual phase is the same way. But we're talking about field phase right now. Beating Decidueye comes down to sidewalking. You want to press a lot less buttons than it's pressing against you because it has this move. This move, 5A, will go through most of your projectiles because that little aura that's around it, that will absorb projectiles and it will go through them, which is actually super annoying. Now, if you notice though, it goes in a linear path. So if you're walking to the side constantly, then you can avoid that attack. And then, if you try to whiff punish it a little early, you can get hit. So you gotta wait till it like passes right past you, and then you go for your whiff punish. Just like that. And so if you'll notice, level 2 blast, it'll just go through it. It'll beat you all day. Level 1's the same thing. But level 3 has more priority. So sidewalking is extremely useful because sidewalking will also get you around this. One of Decidueye's most obnoxious attacks, release-wise. It comes about 15 frames. It does have a lot of travel time, but man, this will shift you instantly and it does a lot of damage. It's one of the best attacks in the game, just period. But if you're sidewalking this, you can avoid that as well. Homing, Decidueye is going to want to do a lot of homing coming up next to you. When you predicted homing to start throwing out some level 2 blasts, this is the thing with blast. You can still use it and it'll still stop dashes and it'll still stop jumps. And it'll still stop homings, but you just don't want to do it from too far away where they can actually react to this. Because if you're close up and you do a level 2 blast, they can't really react. Or if they're far away and you do a jump Y, so if you see them homing from like over here and you do a jump Y, then you can go ahead and go for a full confirm after the jump Y. So basically just try to keep Decidueye away from you and sidewalk whenever possible. And if you have the option to press a button or to just sidewalk, sidewalking is usually better. Try not to block any of this kind of pressure up close. It's going to make you guess a lot, and this counterattack is really good. You can do jumping Y over it, but it's still really strong. And this move, I think it's plus. So if you block that dive kick up high, it seems like you can jump away, and it'll even avoid homing. Pillar's super nice against Decidueye also, because it gets away from Frenzy Plant, which is just super obnoxious. Let me go ahead and demonstrate that move. This move, it's really hard to mediate. Even side Y, it'll work, but you have to like walk away or block after. You can't really cancel into anything else. Like you can't like cancel into slash and then wait for it because you're just gonna get hit. But yeah, that's the basic thing against the Decidueye. You want to just be moving to the side, get to throw out this, get to throw out this, and then if it starts homing at you, then jump Y as early as you can to get away, and then pop Rotom to keep it on the ground. That's very useful, and that'll stop it from doing like acrobatics and sucker punches and all that like really obnoxious stuff. And if you really want to pressure Decidueye up close, you don't want to be afraid of this. Going for the neutral Y straight into Vortex is pretty helpful because it will beat out the Frenzy Plant. Now, in dual phase, it's just tough because those same moves, you don't have as much space to charge level 2 blast, and they're going to beat it anyway. Now, of course, level 2 blast will go through release Y. It has more projectile priority, which is very nice. But the issue right here really comes down to there's not that much space to charge level 3 blast. However, what Decidueye is going to start to love doing is jump Y, because they can do this while going up, and it's plus. You just can't really contest it too much. But if you block one of these, you can jump back, reflect, and if you know they're going to do it, Rotom as soon as you see them go up. Now, one of the things to note about Decidueye is there are different cancels into this soaring stance. So let's demonstrate. If you do 2YY and then you press R, it'll go into soaring stance. Now, anything really, it'll go into soaring stance. 2YY, this is a high cancel. 5YY is a low cancel. And you can't really tell the difference visually. You just have to already know how high it goes. So basically, if it does 2YY and then it goes into fly, then you can Rotom and then grab immediately, and then they can't do anything to avoid it. If they do this, then they can land early enough to avoid the Rotom. So it's a really dangerous kind of thing. So the high cancels that you want to worry about are 2YY and 8YY. Those are the main ones. This and this are going to be low cancels. If Decidueye goes for a block string into that, which is they press R and then A, it's very dangerous. You can't really react if it's point blank, but if they're anywhere besides point blank, then you can see it. So if they're like going over here and they go into that, they can't do it from a jump. If they press A from a jump, they get this. But if you see them flip at all, then they have the potential to do that. So just be ready to anti-air that. This move is really obnoxious. 6x and 6xxx, like the whole string. I think so. The third hit is plus on block, and you can counter after the second hit. But the problem with countering is that if they just go for a grab, you can still get hit. So it's a mix-up. But if you do a level 2 blast, when they're in the air, you can actually juggle them. So level 2 blast is pretty good. Basically, again, remember that if you're not in the range for them to be able to react, like you're right here, it's still a good attack. And then if they start jumping with jump Y all the time, then pop a Rotom whenever you see them go up into the air. Honestly, this is a very difficult matchup for Shadow Mewtwo in neutral in dual phase. So I think it's nice that you can pressure, but like see 6x, it's going to get jumped over by jump Y. In the corner, you really only have Vortex, because even if you try to go for a 6x meaty, then they can wake up with Frenzy Plant, and then you can't really do anything about that. A lot of this matchup comes down to getting Decidueye to overextend with its moves that make your moves worse. So 6x is a problem because it uses jump Y, which is what you wrote them. It's also a problem to use because they're going to be trying to do their 6xx over it, which you wrote them. They're going to be trying to do a lot of counters on reaction, or not even on reaction, they're just going to be charge it in neutral. Can't really do too much about that. Because even if you jump Y and you cross it up, it'll still hit you. Use 6x, then it comes out really quickly after they've been charging it. You can whiff punish it though, and Emolga is very helpful against that. If you're farther away, you can do a level 2 blast if you see it charging, but it really depends on the range. But when you're in burst, obviously you start seeing some blue, then you burst up. So really what you're going to want to do is get momentum just like you do against Sceptile. Win the field phase by sidewalking. Then once you're able to get it to start whipping buttons and start jumping, you want to Rotom those jumps. And then when you're in burst the first thing you see, because you really want to get momentum and kill Decidueye as quickly as possible. Because it's not very fun in neutral. It just has too much armor and too many moves that high profile your 6x. So again, sidewalk, corner, and that's basically how you deal with Decidueye. When you're close up, reflect is very useful because it'll be 8Y, it'll be 8Y, it'll be jump Y, it'll be just a ton of its attacks, but you gotta really practice your reflex. You can CADC when they're going for random 5As, and you can't punish, but it will put you at frame advantage so that you can go for like a 6x or something like that. But in my opinion, reflect is like the way to go to get around a lot of Decidueye stuff. And Rotom again is how this matchup was won. Alright, that's it for the Decidueye guy. Let's move on to the next.